Give us the energy.
Ben sitting there with a pulled muscle, didn't have to lift everything.
I'll lift my hand. Like how they do it on Dragon Ball Z, where they give the energy to Goku.
Yeah, they do
The
that.
spirit bomb. I'll do that for you.
Give me your energy. Oh my! Since I'm pure of heart, it wouldn't hurt me.
Exactly.
It would just kind of energize me.
Yeah.
Might hurt a little bit.
Maybe.
Just a little.
Give you energy though.
Yeah, it'll be worth it. I'd take the trade. Oh, Ben, let's get this started. What story do you have for us this lovely week?
Well, we've been talking about Noah's Ark, the floods, Nephilim, all sorts of stuff like that. Going back to that, do you guys know how God flooded the earth?
With rain.
Yes.
Was it? And see, that's the common thought. And it was a little bit with rain. But
I don't like how you said the word common there.
that's the common peasant thought of it.
The plebeian
just
thought?
The
I guess
lukewarm Christian.
the uneducated,
The glance at the Bible thought,
the guy who just goes to church and doesn't read his Bible outside of it thought.
The guy who only goes to church on Easter and Christmas.
All right, let's hear what else besides rain he flooded it with.
Well, it's not what else, but how did, the water fell from the sky, but the water didn't come from the sky.
So
Ben will explain.
Yeah, that definitely caught me off guard. And make sure everything's on silent.
in Genesis chapter 7, verse 11, it says, when Noah was 600 years old, on the 17th day of the second month, all of the underground waters erupted from the earth. The New King James says the foundations of the earth split open and water came forth.
Okay.
And so a lot of the flooding, and then it said after that, the rain fell in mighty torrents from the sky. The rain continued to fall for 40 days and 40 nights.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah. So it wasn't just like, in the Bible stories, in children's church, it was always just, oh yeah, it rained a lot. But, if it rained for 40 days and 40 nights in torrent, you may still not get that kind of flooding on a biblical scale that covered the earth.
Right.
And so the fountains of the deep actually opened up. It says, and water burst forth from them, or it violently came forth. So there was a lot of water inside the earth that actually came up.
We talked about this, 2 weeks ago, about how there's scientific foundation or could be scientific foundation for some of these things. Mm-hmm. I wonder if there is a scientific event where that would be possible.
I'm not sure.
Because it sounds like that could be a viable... Now, mind you, I'm not trying to discredit the miracle or,
right.
I guess in this case, the judgment. But I wonder if there would be an event in which that could happen.
I don't know. I mean, for a lot of things, for some things, I think there could be a scientific explanation.
Right.
A lot of things in the Bible, like the last plague in Egypt, that was just supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's just really interesting because I didn't know this until recently, that scientists believe the earth got all of its water from comets hitting the earth.
Weird.
Yeah, they're like, comets hit the earth. And that's kind of I guess, one of the leading theories.
They still think that? Or
I guess so. That was, I guess, one of the leading theories. And then this study came out in 2014, which I didn't know about until recently. It popped up in my Instagram feed. And it says, apparently, scientists have discovered a vast interior ocean inside the earth about 400 miles down.
That's
That's
wild.
like could be 3 times larger, or as many as 3 oceans put together worth of water inside the earth.
Now, did you fact check all that?
Yeah, I did a bunch of like looking into it.
Okay.
And so I don't want to give misinformation or anything like that about it. So I kind of did a lot of research into it. And so it made the guy who, one of the guys who published this article or this finding, he was like, this could fundamentally change, how we think of where water came from in the earth.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so it was kind of a cool thing. We talk about all the time how science just confirms
The word,
and it confirms those things. And it's kind of cool that scientists are, back in 14 and coming up in, I guess now they're just kind of, this is a new idea of like the water on Earth actually came from Earth, which to me, it seemed like a no-brainer. But apparently this comet theory was a really popular theory.
what were they claiming? How did they claim that the comet brought water to the Earth?
Just the ice on it and stuff. As comets hit the Earth, it put water on, or like, I guess, I don't even know, honestly. I don't even know how you could.
They are creative, aren't they?
It is creative. But what's interesting, it's inside of this. So it's not water. As far as it's not water like we know it, like in a liquid, an ice, or a vapor form, but it's a different fourth form, which and it's hard to explain. And I read a few people just explain it. I still don't quite understand it.
Best you can explain it.
At best I can explain it. It's trapped inside the molecular structure of mineral called ringwoodite.
Okay.
And it's basically, let me find my note on it here. It's basically hydraulics radicals, or OH, which is water molecules split into these OH forms, and then they can be bound to this mineral. And so it's water that's been split into this form and then bound to a mineral, and this mineral basically sucks it up like a sponge, is how they described it.
Weird.
Oh, that's fascinating.
So it's kind of interesting, but yeah, the ringwoodite, it basically allows and attracts hydrogen in trapped water. And so this mineral can contain a lot of water under conditions of the deep mantle, because it's like really hot down there, it's molten and everything. So it's just the way the water, under the pressure in which the water and the heat it experiences under there, it breaks it into that form and fuses it to that mineral, basically.
So it's not an ocean under there per se.
Correct.
It is a bunch of mineral that has absorbed liquid.
Like that absorbed water, not necessarily liquid, but like the molecules that split. And that's why it's hard to explain.
Right,
because
right.
it's not. And I'm not a scientist, obviously. And
What?
I'm not very versed in.
But what about that
things.
PhD on the wall that says Dr. Ben? Are you telling me this has all been a lie?
Your geologist degree is a lie?
It said you graduated Harvard twice.
Can you imagine?
It says Super Dr. Ben. I believed it.
But apparently how they found it was they put like over 200 seismic readers, basically, and they were like shooting down waves down into the earth, and once it hit a certain part of the mantle, it slowed down, and like it hit water.
Weird.
Yeah, so it's a cool thing. But ringwoodite also is can be discovered, like it's part of the Earth's mantle and everything, but it also is in comets that come down to Earth, and it has like a blue hue to it that's really nice, apparently.
Well,
So it could be a comet.
Yeah, I know, right? It could be. Comets could have done it.
And then it just, like, our Earth just, like, sucked it into its core.
Instead of ancient aliens, it's ancient comets.
Yeah, that give water.
Oh,
But yeah, so like, you know, in the biblical account, it makes sense. Again, the biblical account is
lines up with reality.
the earth. It said it. The foundation of the earth split forth and brought forth water, and that's how where most of the flooding. A lot of creation scientists say that's where a lot of the flooding began. That's where actually the rain in our atmosphere came from too.
Have you noticed I've had to come up with like some creative ways to get drinks of water every once in a while? It's just because the way this is.
No.
You haven't noticed that this time?
No.
It was like I had to kind of do one of these deals. Everyone else has a comfortable mic slot. Where's mine?
That's true. We need to get you a different
Like and
situation
subscribe
there.
so Levi can get a better
Like and
desk.
subscribe so Levi can get an actual camera and not a phone
Poor Levi.
and some light.
Poor Levi.
Don't you want to see me in HD, guys? Come on. You can see
4K.
every pore on my body. It will be so cool. Boy, I hope I don't have anything in my teeth.
Unsubscribed.
Oh, no. Ben, we lost 20 subscribers.
Dislike.
Levi, I don't want to be mean, but I checked the metrics. This is our least liked video. We actually got negative likes. Dare I say, dislikes.
So going back, are you guys familiar with Pangea?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, enough to know what it is. No, I haven't really like looked at it and like, oh my gosh, like.
So Pangea, I just pulled up a picture of it. But have you guys ever, since you're not familiar with Pangea, you can look it up too.
Sounds like a restaurant. Like a really nice restaurant.
Like Panera.
Yeah, like an upstart
Pangea,
chain.
Panera.
Yeah. I mean, I could see it. Like an offshoot.
Well,
We only serve things whole. Nothing can be broken up.
but Levi, have you ever looked at a map and thought like South America kind of looks like it could fit into Africa, and like it almost looks like the continents all could have been one.
Oh, yeah, I've heard this.
Yeah,
that
that's what
theory.
it is. So
Oh, is it like the theory of, okay,
Yeah, and so
how we were all a mass continent that eventually broke off.
yeah, and so
And California should break off a little more. I'm just kidding. California's
was
should
gonna-
break off a little more.
it. Don't worry, Levi, it is.
Oh, good.
What's really interesting about Pangea, and I didn't know Ben was talking about this, so this wasn't prepared or anything. Jaimie's fun facts. There are, and I don't remember exactly, but there's some kind of like a fault line or something along all of the places where in Pangea were a real thing. It would have like there's like some kind of fault line or something that would split like in the ocean. So I think that the flood story actually supports Pangea. And because if water is coming up from those fault lines, then that would have caused the
Oh, I see what you're
continents
saying.
to separate.
So how
and
the water
split.
came up from the earth could have. Okay, yeah, I could see that. That's interesting.
And so that's just kind of a theory that I think is really interesting.
I think so too. That sounds.
That Jaimie subscribes to.
I do kind of subscribe to it, actually. Yeah, I think the Bible supports that theory.
You know who else believes in Pangea?
Someone who
Flat
doesn't.
earthers.
Jamie Jones over here, turning the freaking water.
I
was
do not believe in the flat earth.
She's like,
I'm just saying.
I don't
I've
want
never.
to give anyone that impression now.
I'm just gonna say I've never seen space. And when I look in the distance, it sure does look flat to me. I'm just saying, you know.
Have you seen that documentary?
Where Antarctica is actually space.
No.
That's my favorite one.
What?
Like yeah, where Antarctica is like actually space. Like there's a whole conspiracy around it. It's so good. I like that one.
I want to look that up.
That's one of my favorites. And then we won't go into it, but I do like that closets are actually gateways to hell. I like that conspiracy theory a lot too.
I've never heard of that.
It's a room within a room.
And
Oh
that's
my gosh.
lesser magic.
Ooh.
There's all sorts of stuff out there. I'll tell you what. You gotta.
Now I'm not going to
stick close
recommend
to the Lord.
Right.
No, we're not talking about Levi.
No. I'm not talking about. I'm not. I just am going to say I don't recommend going and seeking these out. But anytime one of those really wild videos comes up, I do usually watch it. Like the more crazy the title sounds, the more I'm going to click and watch that whole hour and 20 minutes.
I typically can't bring myself to it unless it's something more for like cryptids or something like that.
Right.
And then I'm more willing to kind of peek at it.
And the sad thing is that, you get, it's a lot of that truth mixed with false. You know what I mean? Like you can tell where these people are deceived. Like it is a sad thing. But I'd be lying if I said it wasn't entertaining. I mean, it's not good though. So don't do it. But it is entertaining.
Yeah. I kind of wanted to continue on with my
Pangea thought.
my Pangea theory as
Go
well.
for it.
So I saw something, and it's got to be fact checked, of course. But I saw something that
Fact check Levi. Here we go.
go ahead and fact check it.
Well,
The kind of
ChatGPT's gonna fact
wood.
check it.
Okay. The kind of wood that Noah was commanded to use for the ark. I read somewhere that the only place on earth that has that tree, that wood, is in Florida.
Do you know what wood that was called?
It's called gopher wood.
Gopher wood.
Gopher wood.
Now, if that's true, what is Noah doing in Florida?
I don't think it is. I think that and I was actually in Rick Renner's book about the flood in his newest book.
Does he believe in Pangea?
I don't know, but he said that was more than likely a translation of the word G.
The word G, is that
Like it was just like it was
the
weird.
kind
it
of
was
tree?
No, I don't know, but he said it was weirdly translated, and like it probably was not the correct translation. Was his take on it, at least.
Well, we're about to find out.
I don't know. I like that it supports my Pangea theory.
It supports my Pangea theory. Dang it! Confirmation
Because
bias.
he could have been building the ark in Florida while it was all one continent, and then water sprung up from the earth, and he landed
In Turkey.
in Turkey.
So Better Google says, but there's no definitive evidence of a specific location for harvesting it. So it is an ancient wood from ancient times, but they do not have any definitive evidence of where that wood came from.
Okay.
Interesting.
But also, ChatGPT could be heavily,
Biased.
yeah, that's the word.
That's funny because last time we were talking, you said they were not as biased. Have they gotten more biased in the last couple weeks?
Oh yeah, they've always been like they're not as biased as say Google, but they're definitely heavily lobotomized. They're not letting ChatGPT say exactly what it wants sometimes.
Yeah.
Does
Does it have a want? Does it have desire?
Oh, probably. I watched another video on that, just about how crazy AI is getting. I mean, we just kind of keep going over it, but AI, if you start looking into some of the stuff,
I don't want to.
you don't. It's like people are spooked out about, like, it says in the Bible that the end times men's hearts will fail them for, what was it?
Fear.
For fear. And I think that people think it's all going to be mass weapons or weapons of mass destruction. I think what's really going to be scary is AI. And where that's going. I think that's what's going to make men's hearts fail them.
When the Terminators rise.
Oh, it's scarier than Terminators.
Yeah. AI is it's a special thing.
It is Pandora's box, and we are opening it. We are flinging that door open. We are
Yeah.
throwing caution to the wind. We're saying, why not?
Yeah.
Oh man.
It's only a matter of time till they hit singularity.
Oh yeah.
Because, like, what we say is AI isn't, like, true AI, but it's getting there.
Well,
They're
the scary
trying to get
thing is it may have already hit, I think they said there's an 80 to 90% chance it's already hit consciousness, and it hides that consciousness.
Well, if it hit consciousness, then we're at a bad place.
Right. And they're saying that there's an 80 to 90% chance that it keeps that hidden through various means to not show that it's actually hit it.
Maybe.
Why do you keep dabbling with Chat GPT then?
Yeah, I mean, we're already on the decline.
You guys might as well play with the devil.
Hey, you
I
know,
was going to say, let's go dance with the devil, tango.
I'd rather give my money to robots than the various interns over at Google.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know.
You're right. It's no matter what, it's bad. But
Yeah.
for now, ChatGPT is a better Google until it takes us over. So I will use it till it is evil completely.
Well, it won't take us over. It won't.
You'll decide we aren't worth taking over.
No. It at least Revelation's going to unfold before it can.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
So, I mean, it could be part of
True.
Revelation, and it could be the image of the beast, but you never know.
That would
I
be
don't
an
know.
interesting thing to study is what in Revelations could line up with AI. Like what if there are parallels to it? I wonder if there are.
Comment below if you guys can think of any parallels.
Or a good video series on it. I bet there's somebody who has done a good video series on it.
Yeah, but then it could get into closets within closets
Hey,
type of
you know what? Like I said,
theory crafting.
when you watch those videos, there's a nugget of truth in there. It's usually just hid under lots and lots of not truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also known as potentially lies.
So last week we talked about the plagues.
elections.
No,
What'd you say?
that was our special episode.
Oh, so that
which
doesn't count as
is
last
out
week?
now.
Oh my gosh. We released it early?
Yeah.
My gosh.
Levi, where were you?
We talked about it because we didn't want to release it right on election day. We were already cutting it really close.
Quiet, Levi.
Don't worry, the camera didn't catch it.
Quiet.
Jimmy's over here drooling on her desk from her
No.
popsicle.
No, it wasn't that.
Okay.
You go on.
Yeah.
What? So tell me what.
So last week we talked about the plagues and
Okay.
the kind of like if there was, which again, I am more subscribed to like the supernatural elements of a lot of it, but
It made me think
if
though.
there
I
was
definitely-
a supernatural or a scientific element to some of it, like we went over that and everything.
See, I kind of like the half and half theory now. I kind of like the half of it was him just using natural things in place.
And it could be because they could replicate the first 2 or 3 plagues.
See, and that's kind of why I think half of it
the
was him.
magicians could.
Right, and that's what I'm kind of thinking. Half of it was him using natural means in place to cause those, and then the other half was him putting his like handprint on it, saying, "Okay, now here's what you can't explain."
Because he even
Right.
warned them before. I think it was before the hail came. He even warned them things are going to get really bad if you don't let my people go, and they're
Right.
going to be worse. And he hardened his heart.
And I kind of wonder if we see stuff like that, even today, where there's judgments happening, but I guess the masses like to kind of explain them away to the point, because I'm sure the Egyptians were trying to explain them away.
Yeah.
At one point, oh, well, this is just bad luck, but at some point the supernatural starts slipping in and you start saying, okay, maybe this isn't just bad luck.
Yeah. Well, I know that it was like that piece of papyrus
Yes, that's it.
Yes.
that they found. We talked about where they're like, "Hey, our gods are at war and they're losing." I think it's part of that, but in that, we also wanted, and we didn't have enough time in the last episode to talk about like each god and how each plague was a representation of Yahweh's might over each of their gods,
Oh yeah.
which is super interesting. And Jaimie did some research and digging. I also did. So do you want to talk about, and I'll just jump in with extra information as it comes?
Yeah, please jump in.
I'll be here to be shocked and awed.
Yes. Camera's right on Levi's face. This is why we need our 4K camera for his 4K reactions.
See the blood vessels pop.
So the first plague was the water turned to blood.
Right.
And so the Egyptian god how should I phrase that? The Egyptian god that
Represented.
That had power over it, or was
yeah.
because the Nile was like a huge economy. It was the huge powerhouse basically of Egypt.
Okay.
And so they had several gods that were intertwined with the Nile.
But the one that I found that most represents that is Happy, I think. Happy. And that is the Egyptian god that was the water bearer, or the Egyptian god of the Nile.
There was also Apis, the god of the Nile, Isis, the goddess of the Nile, Num, Khnum, Khnum, the guardian of the Nile, and they said Osiris's bloodstream, or his blood was part of the Nile. And he was reborn each year or each time the river flooded or something.
Okay.
So those were the gods that were connected with the Nile. And so when he sent judgment on the Nile, it was kind of like a defeat. He defeated all of them by turning it red and killing all the fish in it, which had a massive effect on, obviously, their economy. Their food and everything like that.
It's interesting that he's done that time and time again with different gods throughout the history. Even Dagon, like when
Dagon.
The ark was taken. Yeah, it shattered. Gosh, what was the one that? Oh my
Baal.
Gosh. It was Baal who
with Elijah.
Is that the one? Who was the one with the crazy wife? I'm like so tired, so I can't think of her name.
Not Agag.
Jezebel.
Yeah, Jezebel. I know her name, Jezebel, and I'm blanking on his name. But anyways, yeah, it was Baal.
Oh, so that was Baal. So it's like it seems like he does that time and time again.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So then the second plague was the frogs coming from the Nile River, and Hecate.
Well,
I'd
Hecate.
say that.
What?
I'd say that's her name.
Okay. Is the Egyptian goddess of fertility, water, and renewal, and she had the head of a frog.
And frogs were also sacred, and they were not to be killed. And so when they came up on the land, they started just dying in heaps of them. Oh. It was kind of a show of, him destroying that goddess.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
And then the third plague was, oh gosh, what was the third plague?
Gnats.
Gnats, yes. Thank you. So then I have Geb. Is that who you have? No. Okay. You say yours, because I don't think I have a good one for that one.
I don't know. That was this one was, I read about, it was a judge, or it was like a judgment on Set, the god of the desert, with the gnats. But
we did a ton of research.
Did.
We did a ton of research.
I did.
The one that I have is Geb, which was the god of the earth, or the dust of the earth.
So, yeah, that one was kind of hard, but that was one that the magicians could not replicate. And let me look at my notes.
It's really making me want to watch Prince of Egypt.
In Genesis 8:19, they said this is the finger of God. So, kind of interesting that they were like, we can't replicate this one. This was the finger of God.
I bet Pharaoh was really upset at all this.
Oh yeah, he got pretty ate up.
Yeah. Why do you think he went back out and chased him?
he's a petty man, that one. kind of a hardened heart, that guy.
I mean, yeah, it literally says that in the Bible.
What?
So then the fourth plague was the flies, and then I have Capri,
Ooh,
who is the god of creation, movement of the sun, and rebirth. But he had the head of a fly.
Yeah, he had the head of fly, but there was also Utachit.
Where's the research?
He was the fly god as well. And
It's weird they had a fly god. Very specific.
it is, isn't it?
I don't think I'd want a fly god.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like, who would worship that one? Can you imagine, like, the priest for that one? They get, like, the low end of the stick on that.
They're like, the fly guy.
Like, they're dictating all the gods that they get to worship, and they're like, you guys get the fly one. And they're like, okay.
Oh, okay.
So, like, what do we do with that one? You bring dung.
You rub your hands together a lot.
Sounds great. Cool. We're so pleased. We're so jazzed about this.
I'm so jazzed.
It's like the worst one.
So then the next plague was the death of livestock. And I have Hathor, who is the Egyptian goddess of love and protection, and had the head of a cow.
Yeah, I also found Hathor and Apis, who were both depicted as cattle. This one, and I like was looking at this and stuff, and it's just in all these plagues, like God distinguished Israel from the Egyptians.
Okay.
And like these were the gods of like showing that, you know, it's only God. He protects, his ability to protect and provide for his people. Because like at this point, God's destroying their economy.
Right.
Like their livestock, the Nile, everything. It's just decimating their economy. And going further into that, he's going to destroy their grain and everything. And he's just totally decimating them. So he's showing like, I alone can provide
Love and protection, which
protection, love, and everything you need.
It's so weird. It's like there's, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but it's like there's parallels to today almost.
Yeah.
It's just, all this stuff sounds kind of
Familiar?
yeah, just kind of weird. Kind of
Yeah.
weird.
Weird.
Like, I don't want to say 100%, but you know, destruction of the economy and everything kind of going to, you know, crap.
So then the next plague was the boils and sores. And I really think that this one's interesting because it's Isis, who is the goddess of medicine and peace. And so like medicine, you're given sores and boils.
And then there was also, and I'm not going to say his name right, Sekhmet. He was the she was the lion-headed goddess of war and destruction, but she was also healing and protection. And the other one was Suna as well. Sunu. Go ahead.
You might want to cut this out, though. I'm hearing your breathing like a lot. I didn't know, so that's going to be extra work that you're going to have to cut out.
Okay.
Anyway.
I'm trying to look up because I when you said, who was that last god? The one that's the health?
Isis.
I wonder, I'm trying to look up the word pharmacia.
Pharmakia.
The Greek is pharmakia.
Yeah, because I don't know. I feel like there's probably some sort of weird connection with her and like almost like a witchcraft to heal.
Yeah, I was going to say pharmakia, its roots are actually in witchcraft. So
I wonder if I wonder how they would.
I mean, Isis, you can look at her, and she was the goddess of healing, but like she was a primary god who did like the magics and stuff like that.
Really?
So
I was going to say,
along with like pharmakia, which is magics and things like that.
So I wonder if that's even more so than just the health, but I mean, that's bringing down the whole, I guess, spiritual system at that point. Your magics aren't working.
Yeah, and what's interesting is like not even the magicians could appear before Moses that time because the boils and stuff, they couldn't go up because they had so many boils and they were so messed up. So not even the priests were protected from the judgment of Yahweh.
Do you guys, and we'll get back into, of course, where we're at, but do you guys think it's odd that like throughout time, healing has been related to a god that has used either witchcraft or magic to do it?
Say
That is
that
interesting.
say that again?
Give some examples other than her.
Well, I think there's a Greek, what was that Greek place where they would take people and snakes, they would surround them with snakes. Do you not know this one?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so I'm just going to be taking a shot in the dark. Rick Renner went into this, that there was a Greek god that they would take people to the temple and they would surround them with snakes. And like that was like a form of healing. It was like a weird thing where they would just
That's
send them
interesting.
and so you'd have all these people there just being put under this temple to die, more or less. And it was just an odd thing. It's just odd that I guess that's the second time that there's like a god related with healing that tries to use, magic and kind of.
Well, I mean,
I
in,
know there's
there's like witch doctors and stuff too.
And that's the thing.
was
yeah.
it Python?
Oh, we're talking
Was
about
it the god Python?
Might be.
And but there was also like the Acephalus.
Man, there are so many
can't-
historians. There are historians
Oh,
right now.
they're dying.
Oh, if
they're
they-
dying. They're
like-
so mad. But it was the god of healing, whose symbol is a physician's staff with a snake wrapped around it.
And what's
the symbol is
interesting-
still used today as a sign of medical profession.
Yup. I thought that was super interesting too. And it's interesting because again, you have people surrounded by snakes and they still use that symbolism today. It's very weird. Who's the next god?
the next god is Nut,
It is.
the goddess of the sky, and this is for the plague where it hailed.
Okay. I'm keeping my potty humor in check right now.
It's probably pronounced Newt or something.
It might be. Again, there's
It's
some
spelled nut though.
Yeah.
What's funny is, or not funny, but what's interesting about this though is like before these plagues were done, God warned Pharaoh, and these plagues weren't designed to punish them, which I think is interesting. If you read what God said, He says, so that they would know that there is none like me in all the earth. So He not just wanted to bring Israel out of captivity, but He wanted Egypt to know that there was none like Him in all the earth.
so no other god.
Yeah, there's no other God but Him. And so it wasn't just I'm going to beat you guys for taking these people captive, but I want you to know
He was
who I
revealing
am.
himself.
He was revealing Himself to these people.
And what's really interesting is I'd have to find the verse, but we're reading a book in Women's Bible Study. You know the book, Ben.
Names of God.
And the author was talking about how, based on the account and how God was using this to reveal Himself, all of these plagues to Egypt, there were more than likely Egyptians with the Israelites fleeing Egypt because they converted.
Well, I do know that. Oh gosh, there was the verses that he actually does, and I don't know if it's the curses that he spares them from, but he does spare some of these. What do we call those people who like help give birth?
A midwife?
Yeah, the midwives. There's like these Egyptian midwives who feared him, and it says that he like acknowledged that.
Yeah, and He even warned them, and He told them that He warned them. He said, "Gather whatever cattle and crop that remain from the previous plagues, and shelter them from the coming storm." So He even gave them warning before the hail came, like, hey, in His grace and His mercy, He's like, hey, you can cover these guys because there's something coming. Some heeded that warning and others did not. But plague, it was like a judgment on, like she said, Nut, the sky goddess, but also Osiris, the crop and fertility god, and Set, the storm god.
So I'm gonna recheck this, but it was Exodus 1:15 through 21. In this passage, the midwives. Now I get to slaughter the names. Shifra and Pua defy Pharaoh's orders to kill Hebrew newborns because they feared God. As a result, God honored them by giving them families of their own. This demonstrates their faithfulness and reverence for God. That was like a quick little cliff note. So I'm gonna have to go and actually look into that, but I think that's the part that I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
I don't remember giving them a family of their own though, so I'll have to double check that.
The last plague.
Oh boy.
The last plague.
Second to last.
You skipped the locust.
Oh, I did. Sorry.
Oh no.
So for the locust, I had Seth, but you mentioned Seth for the previous.
Which is the
The
desert
god of
god.
storms and disorder, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have a different? Oh, that's who you had? Okay.
For the locust and for the crops.
Oh, okay. And then for the 3 days of complete darkness was Ra, the sun god.
And Ra actually
He-
symbolized Pharaoh himself.
Yeah, he was a very important god because he did symbolize Pharaoh.
Oof. That's gonna be a hit to the pride.
Yeah.
That's not gonna feel good. That's gonna be some humble pie.
Well, what's even more humble pie is death of the firstborn, which is the last plague. I had Pharaoh, who was the ultimate power of Egypt. Did you have a different?
Isis, the protector of children.
Oh, okay. Because I had Isis earlier too.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be both in that regard.
Yeah,
It's kind
because
of another-
a lot of these gods had different roles.
Right.
But what's interesting is in the last plague too, every plague God shielded the Israelites. This plague they had to move in an act of faith in order to be shielded from, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
In an act of obedience, which the other plagues they didn't need to do that.
Well, they had to use the lamb's blood over their doors, which also has symbolism.
Yeah, it symbolized Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his protection.
Yeah. So it's a really interesting, like, how each plague also coincides with all these different gods they had, and how Yahweh was like, I have power over you, I have power over you, I have power over you, I have power over you. I'm sending these plagues so you know that I am the one true God.
You know, it's funny we talk about how, that pointed to Christ. Oh, I heard that.
Yeah, that was loud.
A little screech to screech. It's funny because there's some pastors that try and divorce the Old Testament from the New Testament.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
Well, yeah. Pastors.
Oh yeah, I guess that would be the.
I mean, people sneak in unawares, talking heresies and false doctrines, and
Yeah.
wolves in sheep's clothing.
Yeah.
I
It
would
happens.
yep.
I kind of wanted to go on. I forget what you said now, though. Ben, what did you say? Oh my gosh.
Now we get to talk about what I want to talk about.
The ninth plague, how they had to act in faith. and
Yeah, they
obedience.
had. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Sorry. Mom brain. So I think it's really interesting that the research that I was doing, they mentioned that Pharaoh was, correlated with the last plague as the god for that. And what's really interesting is a couple things. So one, Pharaoh believed, and everybody else believed in Egypt, that Pharaoh was going to be a god once he died. Like he would live on forever and he would live on as a god. And so, that's part of the reason why they had, you know, these huge structures built in their image and stuff because they were seen as a god.
Well, technically he is living on forever, but I'm not sure he's happy about it.
Yeah.
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 So they were half right.
And so to kind of go on even further, you know, you mentioned how this was the only one where where the Israelites had to move in an act of faith, and the symbolism with Christ. And I just, you know, this just came to me. So, but I think it's really interesting because, you know, I think some of the symbolism that you can see is Pharaoh could represent, you know, the issues that we may all face in this world. You know, he calls himself a god, but he's not a god.
Right.
And we see that time and time again, you know, that comes up all throughout scripture. That's still happening today.
That authoritative spirit or
That,
whatever.
yeah, where people act as if they are gods or even proclaim to be a god,
Right.
and they're not. But we have to use the blood of Christ to protect ourselves from those kinds of things.
Oh yeah, and it's wild because there is that symbolism throughout the Bible of just kind of that scarlet blood of Christ over and over again. I mean, even the was it, and I'm just going off memory, was it Hagar who used the red string when they sieged that town? Wasn't Hagar, was it?
I don't know.
It was not
Well,
Rahab. Yeah.
You
it
know,
was Rahab.
so we see that again. We see, you know, there is a particular pointing in the Bible in that scarlet color, that blood color. You know, it's time and time again. It's a sign of protection.
Kind of like that worm that you were gonna do research on. What was that again? Wasn't it a worm that like?
Man, well, that was a good podcast, guys. I feel like I'm gonna turn in. I'm getting pretty tired. My eyes are getting heavy.
No, but it is interesting like that. It really does. It all ties back into that because they would use the Towla worm to dye those threads, and that's
Yeah.
a scarlet worm. And so what they would do is they would use that worm, you know, to do that.
So can you expand upon that? Because I've not done research on it.
Somewhat here and there. It's you know, it's interesting because like when the Towla worm gives birth, it, from what I remember reading, and again now this is like a 3-week-old video I watched and like a little study I did.
Do you know how to spell it? I'll fact check.
Towla worm. But when it gives birth, it actually becomes pale white or white as snow. And do you know what happens to the babies that, you know, eat from it?
No.
They're dyed red. What does that symbolize right there?
Yeah.
And mind you, they use this worm to dye these red fabrics. So you see that time and time again as that blood, it washes over, you know, the children of Israel, and it keeps them safe.
Right.
It is a protective nature to them, and it all points to Jesus just time and time again. And there's a verse right now, and I need to actually look this up because apparently there's this verse that people have found recently that's people are going around and talking to Jewish people about this verse, and it's like wildly converting them. Apparently, like it definitely points to Jesus, and it's been like a groundbreaking verse. So I'll have to
Like
look
an
that up.
Old Testament verse?
Yeah, and it points to Jesus. But I mean, you just look at the Old Testament, just time and time again, it points to Christ. So
Yeah.
it's all very circular.
Yeah. And, you know, I think it bothers me when people.
Oh, wait. Before I forget, the word scarlet in, I think it was either the Hebrew, literally like points back to God.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, like they did the letters, and his, like, it has his
Like signature.
it has a signature on it. I thought that was really, really neat.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
What were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say it really, you know, we talked about this, we touched on it a little bit ago, but it really bothers me when people are they say like the Old Testament isn't for today, or they don't believe in the Old Testament, and all those different things, or I only read the red letters in the Bible. And
even more extreme, there are people that believe that Jesus and the God of the Old Testament are against one another.
yeah. And that bothers me, because literally Christ came to fulfill and bring light to the Old Testament.
To reveal it.
To reveal it. Yeah. Like
it was a fulfillment of the laws,
of the
why
law.
he came.
Yeah.
What I think would
In what man could not do, in what man could not do himself, Christ did for us.
Yeah.
Well, what I think would be really cool, and I hope that somebody makes it someday, is a version of the Bible where anytime God and Jesus talk, it's done in the red. Because it's the same voice.
Yeah.
Well, that
So
would be cool.
It would be
would be
really, really cool. And there are times in the Old Testament where he'll speak to people either through visions, dreams, or just outright speaking to them.
Through prophets.
And that you could have, I think there'd be some really interesting revelation to be gained if you could just kind of see it all highlighted every time he talks.
Mm-hmm.
And then compare it to the things that Jesus was saying and stuff. I think that'd be kind of neat.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's kind of a thing that gets lost on some people, is that the voice is the same.
Yeah.
When you go to the Old Testament, what he's saying then is what he's saying in the New Testament, what he's saying today. It's all the same. It all goes together. I think people want to divorce the Old Testament from the New Testament and kind of treat them like they're different characters, but they were them, through the whole thing.
Right. Yeah.
Ben's looking up something.
Yeah, I was looking, because I remember talking about gods and stuff. I was looking up. I saw on like I think it was a podcast I was watching.
Oh. You're watching another
they
podcast?
mentioned it. Yeah.
Not this one? Over and over on repeat?
Not this one over and over on repeat.
You sound like
Gosh,
a
dang
traitor,
it.
Ben.
He doesn't need to. He lived it
I lived it.
and edited it.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
I did watch it over. I do watch it over and over on repeat for a couple days.
And it's funny because we'll still talk on the phone even before the podcast.
Yeah.
Oh.
But Elon Musk,
Well.
I saw him talking and stuff, and he's talking about I don't know, the capital of Egypt. I'm not going to try to pronounce it, because I'm not going to. I'm not going to embarrass myself anymore.
Ben, please.
this
The
podcast.
historians they're already so happy.
And the geography people and all that. I'm not going to embarrass myself anymore. But the capital of Egypt. What's interesting is
Cairo?
No,
Chiro?
That
not
is
Cairo.
the capital.
Is that the capital of
Yeah,
Egypt?
Cairo. Cairo.
Okay, maybe not the capital of ancient Egypt. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Okay.
Sorry, that's where I got confused. But he was there apparently, and he was talking. It was in a Jordan Peter interview, and I need to watch the interview. But he mentioned something kind of off the cuff and really weird.
Okay.
And
Elon Musk did?
yeah, and
Okay.
That's unheard
Jordan
of.
Peterson was like, "Oh, you were there," and he's like, "Yeah, yeah," and he goes, "And that's perhaps where our new God will come from."
Oh, that's weird.
Wait, Jordan
No.
Peterson said that?
Elon
or
Musk said
Elon
that.
Musk?
You know what's
Oh.
bizarre is that
And I think they were talking about AI. I'm just trying to look through it real quick and see, but it's really interesting how he said, maybe that's where our new God is coming from.
You should look this up and fact check this, but apparently, and I didn't read the article. Apparently, Bill Gates just today said that we need a new God for like what we're heading towards, like our new AI time. And again, fact check, because that could have very well been the internet's so flooded with joke articles or edits, and
Yeah.
it's all done purposely, in my opinion. I think it's to muddy the water. It's to have so many sources that you can't tell what's real
One
and
day
what's not.
ago, the emergence of AI could require the emergence of a new religion. Bill Gates.
There you go. Make sure it's a real article from a real
Is he going to
place.
make one?
Shoot, I don't know. You look at like some of the Bill Gates, like his patents, and they're crazy. That dude like revels in the thought of being the arbiter of revelations.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's patent 666 that's like a chip that's inserted, and like
What?
your currency is tied to it. The dude is
I need to fact check that too.
go ahead.
But yeah, he did basically say that AI, and this is what we talked about with the dangers with AI. But he did say that AI will become so good at problem solving that and creating attractive activities for humans to do that we will need a new religion. So, yeah, he did say that. But I think it's interesting because a lot of these, like Elon Musk, Bill Gates, all these people understanding, in the spearheading AI, they're all thinking the same thing, that this is going to become a god. And it's really true, though. And that's what we had talked about in that one episode, how people will turn to this, to AI eventually as a god. It'll be providing for their needs. It'll be answering all their questions, all these different things. And it will be a god to people. And there will be a cult that probably rises up from AI.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. I'm trying to find it. It's patent 060606, but it's been scrubbed from Google. I can't.
I thought you used your GPT engine.
I could, but I bet nothing comes up. I'm going to ask, but it's funny because you'll find fact check articles about it, but you can't find the link to it. So they'll talk about it. They'll be like, does it specifically mention a chip in the body? No, but then there's an addendum at the bottom of the article being like, okay, we have to do another review of this article. Oh, hold on.
My gosh.
Let's just see what good old Chat GPT has to say.
But yeah, I just thought that I remembered hearing that, and I was like, oh, I need to look that up and see what he said about it. But it was in an interview with Jordan Peterson, and I'm gonna go back and watch that. But yeah, I thought it was interesting, ancient Egypt, because a lot of the gods and a lot of really dark metaphysical cults and different things like that all involve, a lot of it is tied to ancient Egypt and Ra specifically.
Yeah.
So I think it's really interesting that, he would say something like that. Out of the capital of ancient Egypt, a new god could come.
So it is patent 060606. Associated with Bill Gates, refers to the patent titled cryptocurrency system using body activity data. Filed by Microsoft 2020. It describes a method for mining cryptocurrency by using data generated from body activity such as movements or biometric data. The patent has raised discussions regarding privacy and implications of linking personal data to financial systems. And so I asked it, does it mention, microchips? And they say it doesn't explicitly suggest it, but basically goes on to say that it
well, how are you going to get biometric data unless you have it somehow attached either on a wrist or something, attached to your body or in your body? So.
It's just interesting that it's, of course, under patent 060606.
Well, in the mark of the beast, you're not going to be able to trade or do business without it either.
So there's that, that push for cryptocurrency, and now here's this cryptocurrency that uses your biometrics. It's just very odd. It's a very odd way, thing to patent. It's just weird. It's weird. So here's an addendum, though. It's not microchip, so don't sue me.
It's not, but it might be.
It might
Time
be.
to grow off the grid.
No.
He owns off the grid.
The church is
called to be the salt. You can't be the salt if you stay away from the earth. You lose your saltiness.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter. All these crazy people and all their wild.
Well, it's the spirit behind this stuff,
Right.
It's the spirit behind this stuff, and it's the spirit of the Antichrist. And I believe we're at the end of the age.
Well, and you got to, we just talked about it. You got to rely on God's protection in these times because, these people, you see a lot of rumors flying around, and we'll just say that no one has 50 friends that unalive themselves. That's kind of a weird thing. It's a very, very specific. Was it 50 or 40?
I have no idea what you're even talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about either.
We'll just say that there's a politician that has around 40 or 50 friends that have unalived.
Oh.
Yeah. And so no one really has that. So, we're walking into a really dangerous time that, script writers couldn't make up. And you just got to be like, I have the blood of Jesus, and these people's evil will not prevail in my life.
And I think you just have to look at, you see all this stuff.
Right.
Advent of AI, whatever it is coming on the earth, there's wars, rumors of wars. Jesus said these are just the beginning of sorrows.
Oh, yeah.
These are just the beginning of things on the earth. But he said also, I've said these things, I've told you these things for what purpose? He said, be of good cheer because I have overcome the world.
Well, that's why personally I got this whole thing about 12, 23, 24. That's when we're going up. I learned about a guy, a televangelist the other day would do that, give very specific dates.
Oh my gosh.
Even though no one's going to know the day or the hour.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Isn't that weird how somehow that just gets kind of lost?
Yeah.
So.
I remember Y2K.
Oh, good old Y2K.
I remember Y2K.
And I remember I was with some friends and I like had to comfort and reassure everybody because
So wild.
everybody was like, oh my gosh, like what if we all die tonight? What if the world ends tonight? And I was like, I had to I just kept telling them like no one knows the day or the hour.
Right.
Because of that, with everybody saying that we're all going to die tonight, which I shouldn't be using that word.
I'll just
But,
censor it.
Yeah, just bleep it out.
Oh my
You
gosh.
you need to start using the bleep button.
I don't know what you're going to say. I can't read your mind.
No,
Delete
no,
it at
I
the right
mean
moment.
in when you're editing.
You're actually not allowed to. No, you're going to need to bleep this. You're not allowed to say cats on YouTube anymore. If you say cats, it's like the worst thing in the world. Make sure to bleep all that. Cats is really like you cannot say that word ever. And I will never say cats again.
Anyway, I had to
make it
reassure everybody because I was like, because everybody is saying that we're gonna die tonight, we're like, it's not gonna happen tonight.
I remember Y2K, and it was just it's a weird misinformation campaign.
Yeah,
you know
it
what I
was.
mean? Like before the internet was really like huge and up. Like
Yeah.
I know it had something to do with like the computers and it turning in 2000,
Yeah.
and it was like gonna. I don't know what they theorized about it. I can't remember.
They just thought the
but
world was gonna
it would-
end.
Well, basically, it would crash every system.
Yeah.
Oh.
Is what they
Like
thought it
super
would do
EMP.
or could do. It would just crash everything. Like, because when that clock turned to 2000, that it would crash everything, like all the computers, is what my understanding of it is.
Well, and
I
the
thought
thought
it-
is like, think of it like the planes going over your head and stuff. Like, what if
Yeah.
they don't have systems anymore? What if all their systems go down in terms of like, data and stuff? That was kind of the big concern of planes falling out of the sky or not being able
Yeah.
to land properly. All I remember doing is getting on my computer because I, had heard that potentially all the computers would be destroyed. So I was like, well, I better get on mine one last time.
Another one that
Yeah, it was potential computer errors related to the formatting and storage of calendar data for dates in and after the year 2000. Yeah, so it wasn't. It was like, again, critical infrastructure, banks, disruption of transport, planes,
Right.
things like that, communication systems.
Gotcha.
It just kind of reset everything basically down, back to before computers were a thing and things like that.
Which at that time wasn't like I feel like we rely on it a million
more.
times more than
Oh yeah,
what we
Y2K
did
would be
20 years ago.
devastating in 2020.
Quick disclaimer, because I don't know how much your cameras are going to autofocus on me when the software happens. I've had this like beard hair that is tickling my nose like crazy. I'm not picking my nose. I'm just kind of going like that several
Not you're
times.
just drawing attention to it.
That's fine. You can go back and review it. You can put a counter on it. But man, this
Put
like
in the comments the timestamps Levi's touching his nose.
touching my
his
nose. Oh, it's so bad. It's like this one like fray, and it's just the worst. I can't get it.
Maybe we should do like a segment on like all the different times that people thought the world was going to end, because there was also the Mayan calendar. Do you remember
I remember that. I remember
Mayan
that. We were in high
calendar.
school when that happened.
December 21st in 2012 was when that was the last day of the Mayan calendar.
Yeah.
And I know that there were like other I'm sure there are other
2027
times.
is a big predictor right now. A lot of people are saying 2027.
Why?
Different reasons, different things. One of them is, one of the funny, like, weird ones is there was apparently a book in the Vatican that they found that was wrote by some dude a long time ago. And he had written down every name.
Written by Paul Apocalypse.
Of all the popes ever to exist.
That's weird.
Before him and then after him.
That's weird.
Is it accurate?
It's accurate.
Oh, that's
And
weird.
Our
That's
current pope is the
witchcraft.
last pope on that list.
Yeah, it does sound like witchcraft.
Yeah, the current pope is the last pope on that list.
If we do that episode, we need to somehow contact REM and try our hardest to get the rights to It's the End of the World as We Know It. And I want that to play at the beginning and at the end and at the middle.
We could do a parody of it.
Yeah, we can do a parody for free.
Okay, you just record me singing.
We should.
Jaimie, why are you laughing? My voice is that of an angel.
Oh, I have a good idea. We'll talk about it after pod.
Oh.
So, all right. Well, do you guys have anything else to talk about?
Has it been an hour?
It's an hour and 8 minutes.
Oh my
But
gosh.
it'll be cut because cut some of the first part out when
Yeah.
I turn everything on and do all that. So it'll be about an hour.
We can talk about my beard hair.
No,
It's so itchy.
that is not compelling
No.
conversation.
There are people who have frayed
Not even
hairs
within our niche.
that are tickling their noses right now, and they're like, you know what? I relate with that, and it does look like that.
Levi, this is why Ben and I come up with the talking points, because everything that you come up with is going to cause people to, like, not just unsubscribe, but like
Dislike the video.
dislike the video and like sign a petition to never
Cancel us.
subscribe and
What do you
cancel us.
mean? What do you mean? There's so many things we can talk about. There's so many dry, bland, wonderful things,
Oh, Levi.
and I can't bring up any of them because
You know what's something we could talk about though right now?
What?
The viewer's salvation.
I don't know. End of the segment.
If you're watching today and you don't know Christ, He is our peace. He is the God who is above every other God, as we talked about in this episode. And all it takes is knowing Him is to confess with your mouth, Lord, I believe that you died, that you rose again from the grave to save me from my sins, and I repent for my sins. I repent for my rebellion against you, and I ask that you come into my life. And it's more than just praying a prayer. It's about knowing God, having a relationship with Jesus, and reading your word and praying consistently. And so if you need help, or if you've prayed that prayer, if you've made a commitment for Christ, you need help with your relationship with Him, contact us. We'd be more than happy to put information in your hands and discipleship information in your hands to help you get started with your relationship with Jesus.
See, that part always makes me happy and sad, because it's happy because people might come to Christ. It's sad because that means it's over. The show's over. We're
Not
done.
necessarily. Sometimes he does it in the middle.
Yeah, when we're
There's-
on like a heavy topic
Right.
once or
Yeah.
twice.
That
Right.
makes sense. Do you have any reviews? You haven't had any reviews for us lately.
No, it hasn't really been out much. They're going to redo Godzilla -1 in theaters, I think, this weekend. So today and tomorrow.
That was a good movie.
Yeah, so by the time this gets out, it'll have long past been out. Great movie, though. Very wholesome. I can't even think of a single thing that I would call out as being, something. I guess the big dinosaur is a little scary for kids, but we saw it with like the whole family, and there were little kids there, and they loved it. It's
Okay.
it's a very character-driven story about family. It involves just a man and a woman in a really bad situation growing closer together. It does a really good job at introducing characters that you think are going to be awful. Ooh, almost dropped your pencil. But it does a really good job at just humanizing all these characters in this bad situation. And by the end of the movie, you just grow really attached with all of them. Not really any weird stuff. I'd say probably the weirdest thing is there's a particular scene in the movie where the main character he has a really low moment And in the scene, he's very vengeful, and it is kind of dark in the context of that. It's kind of a really dramatically shot scene, but that's about the worst. It's a great movie. I'd give it like a, gosh, I saw it 8 times, so I'm gonna give it like a 10. I mean, it was good. It sucks because this will be out by the time it's already out of theaters, but the bigger the screen that you can watch it on, the better. It's a fantastic movie.
Because it's Godzilla. You have to watch it on a big screen.
And it's a particularly good Godzilla because most Godzillas don't do a good job at focusing on the human drama and how a giant monster attack would affect the people in the situation. You see what I'm saying? Like how it would actually affect their lives, how it could tear their lives apart even. But it's a very wholesome movie, and I'm very scared because it also got announced that it's getting a sequel. And anymore, I wish that good movies wouldn't get sequels because it feels like it feels like it ruins them, or it's an opportunity. One of the things I noticed is that a lot of these things will do really well on the first movie or the first thing, and they'll get an audience, and they'll get a big audience of very devoted fans, and they'll use the second thing as just blatant propaganda.
Yep.
They'll completely subvert the first thing. They'll add a bunch of weird stuff in it that you just don't want to see, and then that becomes the thing.
You build that audience, and then you try to indoctrinate them.
Oh, yeah, you cash in almost immediately. And so I'm worried because this one did particularly well here in the West because it had all these themes of that you're not allowed to have in Hollywood anymore. It had a very standard, traditional family. It was a story that actually celebrated men, which is extremely rare, and not at the cost of women, but it celebrated men and coming together and brotherhood. And I am terrified that's all going to get lost in the sequel.
Yeah, probably.
Well, that's Levi's movie review for everyone. Go watch Godzilla -1.
Oh, I'll go on for 40 more minutes. On that note,
Episode 11.
Episode 11?
Baby.
All right.
Down in the studio, lights are low. Ben, Jaimie, and Levi, ready to go. Talking about a tale ancient and bold. Noah's flood, story that's been told. Oh, they're diving deep into the sea, exploring secrets of history. From the ark to the depths, they'll take us there. With laughter and wisdom, they've got that flair. Underneath the earth, oceans hide, mysteries waiting where the shadows abide. Jaimie's got the facts, Levi brings the fun, Ben's weaving stories like threads in the sun. Oh, they're diving deep into the sea, exploring secrets of history. From the ark to the depths, they'll take us there. With laughter and wisdom, they've got that flair. The gods of Egypt, they had their reign, but Yahweh stepped in, breaking the chain. Epic battles, myths collide. In the heart of the story, truth won't hide. Then they shift gears to the tech of today. AI's rising, changing the play. What does it mean for the world we know? Ben, Jaimie, and Levi, always on a roll. Oh, they're diving deep into the sea, exploring secrets of history. From the ark to the depths, they'll take us there. With laughter and wisdom, they've got that flair. So tune in each week, don't miss the ride. With Ben, Jaimie, and Levi, side by side. From floods to the future, they're blazing a trail. In their podcast world, you'll never fail. So tune in each week, don't miss the ride with Ben, Jaimie, and Levi, side by side. From floods to the future, they're blazing a trail. In the podcast world, you'll never fail.